All right, here we are. Hi, Amanda.
Hello, Darcy. It's nice to see you
Hi,
today.
you too. Okay, so this is my very first video in YouTube. We've streamed to Facebook, Amanda and I have. But as I'm trying to create my channel, one of the things I wanted to add is this journey I'm on, and I'm calling it the 100 Mysteries of Perimenopause to Menopause. So I am interviewing 100 women and we are speaking. I'm asking questions, but I'm letting it be more of a conversation about the journey, mostly of perimenopause. I've interviewed several women that are in menopause or post-menopause, you might call them, and that too has been really interesting in the whole journey. Um, so Amanda agreed to go live with me today and be in this conversation. So I'm going to just start by asking her a few questions, and we're going to let it be a little conversational. And if you are watching, I hope you enjoy. If you have questions, please ask and or make comments. So I look forward to our time together, Amanda. And
Yes, me
let's
too.
start with, how old are you?
I am 49.
All right. So, what I have learned in my conversations thus far is, of course, everyone has an awareness of going into perimenopause differently, right? And because we're each individuals, we enter it at different stages in our life. Some people go into premature perimenopause, and I've spoken to some women that have been in it as early as their late 30s, and some women that start as late as their late 40s. So, Amanda, when would you say you felt like you've probably started to experience symptoms of perimenopause?
Hmm. Okay. I would say the first time that it was obvious, that it occurred to me that this is what it is, was probably when I was 45
Hmm.
and I started having hot flashes.
Okay.
But before that, I was experiencing changes in my menstrual cycle. So
Ah,
now that I'm here where I am and I know that that was perimenopause. It's just at the time I didn't realize it. So it happened, I would say it started happening probably around, yeah, 39, 40-ish, somewhere in there.
yeah. Okay. The change in your menses, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Things
Hot,
that when I
hot.
look back now, I see that it was changes, not the hot flashes. No.
Those started in your mid 40s.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, would you say that you could recognize what brought on the hot flashes? Like, were there certain things that intensified them or brought them on? Or was
Yes.
it just like, oh, I'm going along with my day and here's a hot flash?
No. There were definitely triggers, always. I do also think, though, that the reason I know that is because I've done a whole lot of work to bring myself to a place of awareness. And so I recognized
Mm-hmm.
that there were always triggers. It didn't just come about. There was always
Yeah.
something. And so I explored more into that. And so the
Yeah.
whole time I've always been aware, except for maybe the first few times when I didn't realize what it was. And actually, funny story, and it relates to how we met, but it was the year before we met. I was in Costa Rica, and I'm quite certain that my hot flashes started when I was there. And I didn't notice it
Oh.
because I'm already sweaty all the time and hot. But afterwards, looking back, I realized, oh no, there were like definitely more intense moments that didn't really have anything to do with the weather. But like I said, it was this environment that I didn't really notice. Um, so yeah, when I was
would
at
you
home,
would
yeah,
you
those
associate it
first few
to
times. Yeah, go ahead.
having a good time in Costa Rica, or was it stress from travel? Could you associate those
That I
flat
have no
hot flashes?
idea.
Okay.
No, I don't know because like I said, it was hard to realize when they were happening because I was always hot and sweaty.
Okay.
I do
Yeah.
know there was one when I was in the airport. and I was in like the security line. And so I'm sure
Yeah.
there was something that happened that was somewhat
Right.
irritating. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, like had to remove stuff because I was so hot.
Yeah.
But other
Yeah.
than that, no, I don't know.
Okay. So it has been, again, I'm going to refer a little bit to some of the other conversations I've had. And you guys heard Amanda say that she has, almost, would you say, dedicated your life or spent a fair amount of your time recently really getting to know yourself on a more
Oh
emotional,
yeah.
psychological, spiritual level. So
Yes.
you have a greater awareness of yourself. And
Yes.
it's been fascinating on my journey to ask this very question or have women even speak to some of the symptoms and just brush them off as, well, that's just the way it is. It's supposed to be that way. I'm supposed to be experiencing this. I've been waiting for it. My mom did it. Everybody says that's the way it is, which is really interesting to me. So it feels very much like um, women are just sort of surrender to it. And at some level, there should be some surrender to it, but right, sort of give up on the fact that we are actually or have some control over the symptoms that we experience. And at least that's what I'm learning, of course, is that we are in control of some of that. And we can minimize some of that if we are aware of it and we don't just
Hmm.
brush it off as something that's supposed to happen.
Right.
Um, so Okay, so my next question is, what, if you have any, are the stories you have about perimenopause and or even menopause? Like what stories do you have about what is going to happen to you?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So this is interesting because I feel like I don't have that many.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Definitely, and part of that is because I never talked about it with either of my grandmothers, and my mother had a full hysterectomy when she was in her early 40s, so she didn't have the process at all, and so
Mm-hmm.
we didn't speak about that. So I didn't really have this like family history that I was aware
Okay.
of to kind of bring myself into that story and be like, oh, well, this is how it's going to be for me.
Right.
Um,
Right.
So things that I do know as far as like story of this is how it is definitely that there's, weight gain. And then just this change in things like the youthful parts of us, like the things that keep our skin nice and firm and, that keep the wrinkles away, all of that kind of thing. And yeah,
Right.
just like drying skin, um, yeah, the face, the neck. And it's been recently that I'm hearing more stories, but I'm also noticing I'm not attaching to them. And it's with some of our group, like our friends,
Yes.
particularly who are into Ayurveda and speak
Mm.
about, well, this is the Vata time of life and we're essentially drying out. And I really noticed that and it's like I want to be like, "Oh, well this is how it is." And I find myself in this back and forth and being like, "No, I don't have to claim that story."
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. And again, as I go on this journey myself, I'm like, ladies, like we don't have to be that, right? Of course, at some level, there is aging going on in us and things are changing and our hormones are changing, but it can be pleasant or more pleasant. And it can be exciting to see what's ahead instead of, thinking of ourselves as being old crones and life is over or I can't do certain things. It just changes the things that we can do and how we look at them. It doesn't make us, I'll just use the word crone again. It doesn't make us old crones, right? It just makes us different. And
Right.
and yeah, it's an interesting process and people's outlook on it is interesting. Okay, so
Can
my
I
next
can I
question.
add one more thing? Sorry to this,
Yeah.
is that there are stories that I have consciously bought into. Like,
Oh,
this is a time in our life where we get to revisit things that, came up when we were in puberty. So
Yeah.
all of these like issues or things of our soul or whatever for us that arise during puberty, but we don't have the skills or the knowledge or the wisdom to deal with them, and we do
Yeah.
now. And
Yeah.
that I have been like, yes, I like that story.
Yeah, because it can be a really perfect time to resolve some things that
Yeah.
you've maybe been holding on to, right? Which this is interesting because my next question was going to be, have you noticed a relationship between your menses or menstruation time when you were younger, when you first started to menstruate, and maybe through
Mhm.
your teens? And can you again feel a correlation or relationship between what you're experiencing now? You're in full menopause, correct?
I am, yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
up to full menopause, would you say that there was a relationship in terms of symptoms, more like physical symptoms?
Well, definitely cramps, but I had those
Mm-hmm.
all along,
Mm-hmm.
the whole
Okay.
time.
Were they greater in perimenopause for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. They were stronger. Um, and they came on like twice.
Yeah.
I didn't just have them once at the beginning, I also would have them in the middle.
Ah, okay. And would
Yeah.
you have them every single month?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So
I
so some
I
similar symptoms.
yes. And I mean, I noticed, and I'm sure, okay, I don't know that most women are like this, but I mean, I would notice shifting at the beginning that it would trigger in me that it's like, okay, it's coming, right? Like
Yeah.
before my period would start, I would know it was coming.
Okay.
Where when I was young, I didn't know that. But like I said, I would guess that most women are like that because, when we're near the end, we've had it for so long that hopefully we've learned something of like,
Right.
here's what it feels like when it's coming on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I didn't
That
have
makes
that when I was young.
okay. How about emotional or psychological? Have you noticed similarities there or differences?
Oh, yeah, you know what? I don't know. That's a
Oh,
really
okay.
hard one for me to answer. Um, Particularly from when I was a teen, because I'm not sure, I don't remember what my moods were like then. I know from
Okay.
when I was, more of an early adult, yeah, I got really cranky, like really bitchy beforehand. Um, and I think even towards the end I did a bit too, but I now have all these practices that help me regulate. So, like my
Right.
meditation practice and all that kind of stuff. So I would
Right.
feel these mood swings, but instead of them being like this, they were much more soft.
Ah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, again, still there similarly, but different because I've changed.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's really interesting because you've got these practices, which I think
Yeah.
is really part of my journey in getting to know women's experiences through this time, and then my desire to work with women and say, hey, here's practices that you can do to actually moderate them, control them, if you want to call it that, lessen them, so they aren't so intense, and so it doesn't feel like you're just riding this roller coaster ride, this big roller coaster ride, right? You have some choice in it, and so it's really good to hear you say that, so everybody can hear that,
Right.
is
Yeah.
that there are options. We don't have to settle for the worst of the worst. And for me personally, there was some time in my perimenopause phase where I would feel symptoms so intense, and I did when I was young too. When I was menstruating as a teenager, I had very intense PMS, and I had very intense perimenopause symptoms. And it was difficult for me in the sense that I tried so hard, maybe too hard, I may have been pushing up against resistance to not feel them, to the point where I wouldn't even just let myself accept and really kind of float through them. I would resist them, which I think intensified them. The cool thing is I learned a whole lot, right, about myself, and some of the things eventually I realized could really help me with symptoms instead of just feeling the intensity and feel like a victim to them. So,
can I add something here?
Yes, of course.
What I have noticed is that all these practices that I have, and I know you have similar practices too, is that I'm sorry, I totally lost my train of thought there. Okay, they have given me the ability to have the awareness of what's going on, so that the things that are happening, not only can I have I been able to, moderate them or make them not so strong, or whatever, or they've, sort of dissipated. It's given me the ability to allow them to be information.
Yeah. Yeah. And would you say that the information that you are gaining from those experiences, is it shaping you differently?
Definitely,
Like,
because yeah, even like instead of the word information, it could be messages.
mm-hmm.
Right? What's happening to me is a message about something. And so when I
Right.
can relax into having a hot flash and get curious about it, instead of it being like, oh my God, this is terrible, and having to, and really like hating it, I can just be like, oh, this is interesting. What's going on
Yeah.
here? And why did this come up? And then it's
Right.
messages. And so yes,
Absolutely.
it totally shapes how my whole experience was, and still is,
Right.
because I'm still having hot flashes. Like I'm still having symptoms.
Oh, okay.
I just
So
don't
what
have
would
my
you,
period anymore, which is like, whoa.
yeah, okay. Next question would be,
Yeah.
did you celebrate when you stopped menstruating, or were
Um,
you sad?
oh God, no, not sad. Okay, I didn't have like a celebration, like I didn't have a party or anything,
Right.
but like I kind of freaking celebrate every time because I still have a box of tampons in my bathroom drawer, and every time that I go to get a new toilet paper roll, and there's see that box there, I'm like.
Right.
Or I think about, occasionally I'll be like going somewhere and it occurs to me, I don't have to worry about, did I pack enough? What if it comes when I'm not expecting it? What if I bleed
Right.
through? Like, no, it's freaking freedom.
Yes. Yes. And you know what? That has been a straight across the board in all the interviews that I've done. That has been the same answer for everybody.
Yeah,
Everybody has said that. So
I
that's kind of
love it.
interesting. And
I
you know
was
what?
even I
I
was
don't
even
even.
like wanting to manifest it beforehand. When I knew what was happening, I was like, take it away, take it away. I don't need it
Yeah.
anymore. I'm done with it. Take it away.
Yeah.
And then it was gone, and I'm like, thank you very much.
Yeah, that's interesting. In sort of the yoga and Ayurveda world, they actually encourage us to celebrate menses during that period of our life when we actually have it, because
Right.
it's actually, first of all, it's considered, the blood of a menstruating woman is considered to be very powerful and nourishing and has lots of benefits. But we've been taught that it doesn't, right? It's something that's in the way,
Dirty.
is a nuisance.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I got, every time I go somewhere, I have to pack extra stuff. So I certainly understand where you're coming from, because I felt that too. I'm like, wow, this is really great freedom. And I really did have a difficult time sort of not understanding, but maybe accepting the joy of menses. And I think it's probably because we're just not taught to really appreciate it or enjoy it while we're in it. And so when we do get out of it, we celebrate it. And I get both sides of the coin. So, but interestingly, everybody says the same thing when I ask that question:
Yeah.
do you celebrate it, or was it sad?
There's another part of it to me, is that I knew I never wanted to have children. Like, I just knew that from the
Right.
time I was young. And so having my period all the time always made things there was always this thing of like, "Oh my god, I don't wanna get pregnant. I don't wanna get pregnant. Oh my god, please don't let me get pregnant." You know? And
Right.
now
Right.
it's like, "I don't give a shit. I can't get pregnant. This is cool."
Okay, so this sort of opens the door to my next question, right?
Okay.
And when I ask this question, um, some women are just wide open with it, and others retract a little bit. So only answer it in a level that's really comfortable for you.
Sure.
But how is sex and intimacy and or your desire for it at this point in your life?
Okay. So, and this is interesting because in a lot of ways, not in all ways, but in a lot of ways, this also includes another person, right? So it's not just about us.
Right.
Um, so I would say, as far as intimacy goes, my capacity for intimacy has expanded exponentially.
Mhm.
And I know for myself that most of my needs, not most, well, a lot of my needs, especially for intimacy, I don't feel like I need to get them from my husband anymore. It's not like it's all this weight that I'm dumping on one person. And I get
Mhm.
those needs fulfilled by this community of friends that I have created. And
Very
in
cool.
particular, it's the women that I've called into my life that,
Right.
yeah, like we are intimate together, not sexual, but we're
Right.
definitely intimate. Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
big way, far more than before.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that which I am valuing that way more now than sex, than actual sex.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Okay.
as far as desire, yeah, that's definitely changed.
Mhm.
It's softer, I think would be a good word.
Okay.
Yeah, like not as frequent. It doesn't feel so much like a need, like a crazy need, like, "Oh my god, if I don't have this, it's gonna be something I'm just not feeling complete anymore." It's
Right.
softened, but it feels much more sophisticated.
Yeah,
And
it doesn't feel or look like two rabbits anymore, right? It feels
no.
like it feels a deeper part of you.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
and deeper. I really
Mhm.
wanna throw that in because it's like this capacity for intimacy has merged in
Right.
with sexuality.
Yeah.
And now, even if it's happening far less frequently, it's different. Like, it's more
Yeah.
fulfilling.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Yeah, interesting. First of all, I'm hearing very much the same answer across the board from women who are willing to talk about it. And some women have said that their desire has increased exponentially.
Mm.
So that's kind of fascinating, right? So I originally wasn't asking this question, and I added it on, and you have something else to say. Add it on.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna throw it out there too because this is another taboo topic, and I don't typically talk about this, and I still like, the words that I use to talk about this are ones that I'm comfortable with, so I'm gonna stay in that area, but
Yeah.
I feel like in this age, um and maybe things are changing too now, I feel like the younger generation is just so much more open, but anyway,
Hmm.
where, I feel like the people in kind of our age range now, we get to this point now where it's like, "You know what? If I really have an itch, I can scratch it myself."
And
And
it's
you feel
enough.
empowered to do that, and it's like,
Yeah.
"I'm cool with that."
Yeah. Yeah.
I know I have a friend who said, she was saying like, "I haven't had sex in such a long time," and then she stopped herself and she's like, "No, I have sex. I have really good sex. It's just not with another person." I'm like, "Right on."
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. So I was going to ask the next question in the interest of time. My
Yep.
next question actually was going to be, what kind of things do you do for self-care?
Okay.
So would you say that's changed? Is your
Um,
self-care different than it used to be? And And what do you do for self-care?
Well, I didn't used to think about it. Like
You,
my self-care was like, am I having fun in life? Like, am I doing things that are
yeah,
fun?
yeah.
Yeah.
My son says that a lot, and he's 18. It's all about
Yeah.
fun. Hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, it still is for me. I really am into fun. You know,
Yeah.
I'm into fun and just having things flow and be with ease. And so
Hmm.
if things are feeling like that, it I know that I am practicing self-care. Like that in
Yeah.
itself, spending time in nature for me is definitely self-care. Um, other things that I do, and this is an area where I totally could be better. Like I could be more intentional about it. And I
Uh-huh.
have been thinking about it lately. But some things that I do are like going for floats. My meditation
Oh,
practice is definitely part of my self-care.
yeah.
And that, wanes sometimes, but typically it's like, no, this is something that has to happen.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, my meditation practice, going for floats, rarely, but sometimes I go for massages, and that's something I'd like to do more of. Occasionally, I have acupuncture. I have a
Yeah.
really amazing chiropractor who's like magical, and he doesn't crack you. It's more like he's doing energy kind of shifting. And
Yeah.
so doing things like that. I have this group of women that are really into like spirituality and yeah, there's a woman that I took a course from. She called it the mystical arts, and I just went to a healing circle the other day. So that kind of stuff. And like I was saying,
Right.
just spending time with my women friends
Yeah.
who fill
Yeah.
me up.
Yeah. And um, your opportunity to be out in nature with your husband bird watching, that's got
Bird
to be,
watching,
yeah. Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. And then yoga nidra.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
For sure.
it's gotten to the point where in my business now I'm sharing my practices. And so in sharing them, like I have to go into that place and into that state in order to share them well. And so even that has become somewhat of self-care.
Yeah. Cool.
It kind
Great.
of borders on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question.
Okay.
What is going really well in your life right now?
My friendship with you, my self-exploration and the building of my business. And just the way that I am growing and expanding. Like I started a podcast last year. I've, taken a new certification to do life coaching. There's so many ways that I'm expanding. And I'm really, um, I'm noticing the times when I kind of diminish the things that I've done.
Yeah.
And I go to that place of, "Oh, I'm not getting anything done. Oh, there's all this list that I wanna do, and it's not happening." And then I
Mm.
stop myself and I'm like, "Look at what you have done, and look at how you've changed."
Yep.
And I yeah, I have to celebrate that because I am not the person I was, like, before COVID started. I am
Right.
so different,
Right.
and so that is going fantastically well.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Someone's calling.
I thought I silenced this before we started, but apparently not.
Maybe they
Anyway,
have something to add.
maybe they heard the question and they're like, "Hey, ask me."
It's our
We're
calling, Darcy.
That's right.
It's following our calling. And see, that
Okay.
is something that I have embraced with this whole change.
Yeah. Are those
It's all
moments
just
when something like
change.
that happens, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, if you really appreciate energy or the little subtle things that happen in your life for reasons, something's trying to get your attention, then we could very well see that as that phone call I was getting as a call to action, possibly, right?
Sure, yeah,
So anyway, it is kind of interesting when those things happen.
yeah.
So hey, Amanda, that's
Yes.
all the questions I have for you today.
Thank you.
And I thank you so much for letting me interview you
You're
live.
welcome. Yes.
So
This has been
for the
fun.
world to see, it is. And I am thoroughly enjoying my conversations. And I keep spreading this out into the world that I would love to talk to anybody who would be willing. We don't have to do a live interview like Amanda agreed to do, but if anyone is out there is willing to let me interview them about their journey, I would love to hear from you. So let me know if
Can
you
I
have any
say one more
questions.
thing?
Ask them below. Yeah,
Sorry. If I could
that's
just
okay.
add that I totally feel, for me personally, and I think for all, can I say all? I'm just going to generalize, and I think for all women, this stage of our life can totally be viewed as an opportunity. And so Darcy is having these beautiful conversations with people, and she's so awesome to talk to. If you have this little, even like an inkling that, oh, that would be interesting, do it. And she has an
Oh,
awesome program that she's putting together and been
yeah,
building to help you to let this be an opportunity rather than this thing that's like,
right,
menopause.
right.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. That
Yeah.
crone thing that I talked about earlier, right? Yes, I have not put a plug in for my program. I have put
Well, I
together
just
a
did it
six.
for you.
I know. Thank you for my 6 month program that includes all the modalities of what I've been doing for most of my life. Um, so ask questions below, and I will respond to them, and or offer to have an interview. It's free. It typically takes me only 30 minutes, and you heard some of the questions. Sometimes they vary a little bit if we get into conversation. So I'd love to hear from you, and thanks for the plug, Amanda.
You're welcome.
All right, everybody, thanks for joining us. I will see you soon.